never seen anything like that. I mean, I've seen jiu-jitsu, but those guys are amazing.
A great honor to have the Machado brothers.
Machado.
It's Carlos Machado.
All right, everybody. Carlos Machado here for another episode of Coffee Time with Carlos Machado. I have before me somebody that I got to meet a while back, intriguing personality and a very amazing career. And that's one of the reasons I brought him here. I love learning about technology, military analysis, geopolitics. So we're going to have a full plate. His name is Christian MacFarland. He's a former 14 Eco operator of Patriot Missiles. And that right there, Chris, intrigues me. So, Chris, great to have you here, man.
Thank you. Good to be here. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, since you said Patriot Missiles, let's just talk a bit about that, just to get that out of the way. And I'd like to hear a bit more about how you became an operator of such a fancy technology and some background on that.
So first, to start off, I went to the recruiting station out in Keller, Texas. I wasn't doing too good in life. I just lost my job at General Motors, and I needed something, very big. Oh, back in 2016. I joined in November. But I sat down. I remember sitting with the recruiter, and he was like, hey, you can be a military police officer. That doesn't give a bonus. It's $20,000 bonus if you go Special Forces or EOD, and it's $40,000 if you go to 14 Echo Patriot Missile School. And I was like, let's do that. How long would it take for me to ship off? He's like, next week. So I signed the paperwork, and I went to MEPS, did the whole thing with like the duck walk and the doctors checking in on you and checking your butt and all that, and then they ship you off. But I went from there to basic training at Fort Jackson. Most people that go to 14 Echo School go to Fort Sill for basic, but I got sent to Fort Jackson. After basic, I went back to Fort Sill for 39 weeks for my training, and then I went straight to Korea.
Okay, so before you even started in 2016, I assume you already had a background in the military?
Yeah, my grandfather was in the Marine Corps. My great-great-grandfather was in the Army in World War II. I'm the latest serving member in my family.
Okay.
No one directly related to me has served recently. My grandfather was in Korea, though, when it started, and I was there when it, was working on ending, with the first term with Trump. They were working on trying to do a peace agreement between North and South Korea to end the armistice era, because there was a time where you could freely walk into North Korea after they had met. But they stopped that as soon as the Biden admin came back in.
I got you. So in a nutshell, how much time did it take by the time you started training to become a 14 Eco operator and the time you shipped to Korea?
So it's 39 weeks, and then there's like a little bit of holding period because like there's like logistics on paperwork, and they're trying to figure out who's fit to do it, who isn't fit to do it. If you don't make it through the selection process, just the basic like school, you just get recycled. And if you fail enough, they'll put you in what's called 14 Tango. And Tango guys are nothing against my Tango guys. I love you guys, especially the ones that have converted into being TCAs, which is mostly Echoes. Tangos are the guys that reload our missiles for us. They go out there and they work on our equipment. They get the launchers ready. But it's 39 weeks. Then you get your orders and you get shipped out. And then the training doesn't end. You go straight to your unit, and then you're given your equipment. So for me, I was given the ECS, which is the Engagement Control Station. We are the ones that get to press the buttons that code it all, look at everything in the airspace, all the aircraft, the different missiles that they're fired off. It's a very, very, very heavy course. You start at what they call level 5, level 6 ABLM, which is air battles. So it's like simulated fights at the basic level, and then they get more advanced to scaling of like World War fighting.
Wow.
And it's a very rigorous process because there's only about 2 or 3 of us per unit, and there's probably about 20 to 40 14 Echoes at a unit. And there's 5 pieces of equipment that are called fire control. So you got the EPP, which is the empowerment station. It's got 2 huge generators. They power all the equipment, and they power the radar, and then they power the engagement control station. And then we have an early alert system next to us that has all the 3D schematics of different types of missiles. If I need clarity, I'll radio on my headset to these guys like, hey, is this a cruise missile or is this an aircraft that's flying really low? And they'll let me know. Because everything on my screen is very 2D analytics. But if you fail that selection process, you don't get to retry for like 6 months. And you're kicked out of the van.
Wow.
And there's 3 seats in the van. There's the TCA, which was my job my first time, and then there's the CSO, which is the signal officer. His job is to relay everything we see. There's a secure encrypted chat. He also makes sure that all of my signal lines are operating. My links are up, which is like all the fiber networks between my system and the missiles. And then you have the TCO, which is the officer who is commissioned officer, like a lieutenant.
Yep.
So it's usually like a lower enlisted, like a private specialist, sometimes a sergeant. There's staff sergeants that try to do it to get that accreditation of being a TCA. I've seen a lot of higher ranking people attempt to certify. Not a lot of them are very successful because it's very, very, because they're already dealing with so much on their plate, managing the troops and then learning that system. It's very hard. And then there's the thing called the antenna mast group, which is like a massive truck. And there's these antennas that raise up like this. And that's how you have to shoot your signals to other units if you don't have a direct wire in. But so that's how it breaks down. There's like only 2 or 3 of us that pass at the unit level. And then there's like 2 battalions with 4 units in each, usually theater. So like in Korea, there's 652, which is northern South Korea, which is like Seoul, like Osan, Suwon, and mostly Pyeongtaek now, which is Camp Humphreys. Camp Humphreys has pulled a lot of the stuff off of Suwon. It's called the Iron Horse Battalion. And so there's 4 Patriot units there. And they're most of them are jump batteries. It's a rotational hard site. So that means like one unit will take over the hard site and they'll be continuously monitoring while the other unit is like relaxing. But if like, something's about to happen, they'll jump. Like, hey, jump to the DMZ. Hey, jump to this undisclosed location. They'll do that. And then there's a backup unit that has to train just as hard. They're called 2-1. And that's a battalion further south, Korea. They're closer to the beaches. And their purpose is to jump to us, to cover us while we reload our missiles if we have direct combat with North Korea or China.
Wow. So if you don't mind educating us on the capability, what was designed for, which we know, and what kind of target it's primarily used for the Patriot missiles, and what countries, I guess, and I assume I know some already that do, including our own.
Yeah.
But if you can give a description here on the education, how effective the Patriot missiles are.
99.9% effective kill ratio now. It used to not be that good when it was first developed. When the Patriot system was first created, it was created on the Jim Tango 1 missile. Now, and it got updated to the Jim Tango 2.
Would you mind?
Which is called the Pack 2. It's a bigger missile, which we usually carry a 4-pack, 4 different canisters. They are for air-breathing targets. So they explode before the target, really close, very like milliseconds. You wouldn't even be able to tell it apart from a kinetic kill from that, but it explodes beforehand, has all these bomblet clusters that hit the aircraft and blow the aircraft up. And during the Gulf War, which was the first time we saw the Patriot system used against missiles, they would hit these missiles and they would blow the missile up, but the warhead would fall and it would hit someone's house.
Ooh.
And it would kill the whole family and probably the neighbors. And you would see that a lot. And you can watch footage of the Gulf War and the Patriot system engaging where like you'll see, higher up people are freaking out because they were targeted. Their bases were targeted by missiles, and that's why the Patriot system engaged, was to defend, because it's more of a defense structure system. Unless we know that like they're targeting something and it's in our coverage, like we can code for that to protect this area, and our system will automatically engage that if you code it correctly.
My question here though is on the Patriot missile, you had the issue at the first Gulf War. Is that the one that you're talking about, or
Yeah.
the second? So
I think it's the second. Yeah.
the second. So the warheads are still falling and causing collateral damage. So the technology now, I guess, has improved. Or
Yes. So they determined that the PAC-2 wasn't sufficient to engage um, missiles. It was perfect for air-breathing targets, but so they developed the PAC-3. The PAC-3 was a kinetic missile-to-missile kill weapon. So what it does is it kinetically intercepts the warhead instead of the whole missile itself.
So
and
the
blows it up.
destruction happened in the air.
Yeah,
the whole
destruction
thing.
happened in the air.
I got
yeah.
you. I
So
got you.
basically, there's a small amount of clutter that comes off of that we see. They can accidentally be engaged. That people will still think that debris is something.
That's still a target.
Yeah, still a target. And we saw some of that happen recently in Qatar.
Mm.
I don't know how much they've released out of that, but there was 55 missiles that we fired to protect our bases in Qatar from the volley. I think the Iranians were not prepared for how prepared we were. They think that they were going to surprise us and our troops in Qatar, but we shot them all down.
Okay, so but the thing nowadays, when you have like decoys and multiple warheads, or like a swarm
Mhm.
of missiles being shot at once, how does the Patriot missiles fare against that kind of scenario?
So we have a thing called launch now intercept point. It's called LNIP. That determines like where we would intercept at, and also shows us the point of impact depending on the missile. Now there's this couple of missiles out there that are remote controllable, but most of the missiles are dummy fire, like grid coordinate missiles, like stuff that would happen in Iran. They would put in the coordinates of where they're trying to hit based off of spy intel that they got. The only country that has missiles like that would be Russia or North Korea, and China, that could have the capabilities to try to avoid our missile systems. But like a heavy salvo, like you're talking about, we would look at what's the biggest threat out of these missiles, and what's the probability that this missile is going to hit us. And if they're all going to hit us, then we would salvo at all of them and take them all out and just reload if we had to. And then we would go into a thing called LOMO, low missile operation, which means that we're running low on missiles. And so we would have to really sit and think about what is the biggest threat out of these groups of missiles. And we would look at like the ID classification of like which one's got the biggest payload, which one's going to hit what part of our attack site. Like if it's going to hit anywhere near to where it's a threat to us or our people, we'll take out those first.
Gotcha. So you have the priority based upon
that.
the damage and the risk. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Gotcha. So is this missile a common component of most air defenses nowadays, I assume?
The Patriot system is its own system with its own set of missiles. Like the Iron Dome has its own set of missiles. The THAAD system, which is dealing, in the higher echelon, closer to outer space, way outside the reaching of the bounds of the Patriot system. Each system has its own. Like the Iron Dome is more self-defense in the aspects of it's protecting this area, whereas like the Patriot, like we can engage to certain distances. I can't really disclose like how far we can go.
I understand.
But we can protect from away from our position if we need to, and we can rotate everything. All the launchers can turn, the radar can turn, and we can turn and face. Like say if they're flanking from behind us, we just 360 everything and fire that way if we have to. It'd be very, awkward looking, but it's a possibility. It's the PAC-3 system got an upgrade called the MSE, Modified Segment Enhancement, which is where it got some of the thruster capabilities of the THAAD missiles. So now we can shoot even further and, achieve the higher echelon of where our radar can see capability-wise.
So I got a couple of questions because you mentioned Iron Dome, and we've seen some of it in the engagement that happened last year with Iran, and
it failed.
How does that work, or how effective has
they ran out of missiles?
They run out of missiles?
Yeah, I don't know how much they disclosed about this, but one of my best friends, who's also a TCA, was with me in Korea. I can't disclose his name. He was heavily involved in some operations based out of Jordan, and he shot down a lot of the missiles when Iron Dome ran out. The Patriot system engaged, which shows that we have the capability to to slam missiles. You think about where Jordan's located, and you look at, where Israel is on a map. It's basically firing missiles sideways at missiles. So,
Wow.
And that was extremely effective. I mean, look, Tel Aviv's still standing, right? So the Iron Dome ran out of missiles, and the Patriot system saved them.
Amazing. Wow. Wow. Uh, since you talk about air defense, what's going on with Ukraine and Russia? And if there's, I mentioned that earlier when I had lunch with you,
Yeah.
and you said sometimes there's constrained or restricted conflicts. Let's say so far, fortunately, it hasn't expanded beyond that theater. But when those theaters are in place, there's opportunity for a lot of the powers that be and the technology to be tested. And you said something, I'm not sure what you can disclose in regards to reading signals and mapping out radar signals and how that actually can affect the performance of other operations, like some that happened more recently in Venezuela, or who knows what's going to happen in Iran again, as we're
So
talking here. Yeah.
we got intel from some of the Ukrainian forces about some of the Su aircrafts and the Mikoyan aircrafts, which are Russian made, but North Korea, China has some of these aircrafts. Um, a lot of the near peers, even Venezuelans, have these aircrafts, but they all have modern jamming capabilities. They're nowhere near to what we have, but they take certain codes and signals to identify as friendly or foe for their systems. Because the Russians love to sell the system called the S-300, S-400 systems to other countries. I haven't seen which is their answer to that is called the S-500. Um, they're nowhere near as capable as they say they are. Just like everything, it's all propaganda with them. But their crashed aircrafts, we were able to get some of their black boxes and get their jamming codes and their capabilities. We have it all. Like even China's kind of stressed out about it because of how much information we got from the war in Ukraine, and it really showed like how amazing drone warfare is. To the point where now they're no longer using wireless drones. Everything's all fiber optic drones that they're flying around right now because of all these jammer packs that people are wearing.
Yeah.
But
Tell me about it a little bit more. I'm kind of like, because I know it's another game changer. And I, from what I understand, Ukraine has experienced a high degree of success and has become, a maker in the drone, manufacturing. Isn't that a fact?
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, there's a really cool show that I like to watch, and I recommend everyone watch. It's called The Enforcer. And every day on YouTube, they've got different briefings on different drone strikes, what type of drones were used, because like they got this multiple guys, like a team of guys that are just continuously analyzing Twitter for any type of clips, and so they can look at a video and tell you what type of drone it is. And so a majority of the drones that we're seeing coming out of Russia are like Sakid drones, which are made by Iran. And so it's like different types of drones. You get your little tiny four rotor drones that are flying off. You'll see a lot of those that were like the video footage of the FPV drones. Those are, a lot of them are kind of like war crime footage. And then you'll see some of these long distance payload drones, flying up a little higher altitude. And the Patriot systems engaged quite a few of those Sakids. And there's quite a huge demand for missiles right now. I know that Lockheed, their missile systems are based out here in Fort Worth. So all the production for all those missiles that go straight out to Ukraine and stuff are done here.
Yeah. So how much? Because I know in the beginning of that conflict, we're talking about the tanks and how each war, as technology evolves, some things tend to become obsolete. If you see, like the First World War, they still had horses.
Yeah.
By the Second World War, they are no longer there. So you had the infantry, with the heavy machinery and the tanks. And I think some wars between Germany and some battles in Russia were fought and won or lost in the tank battles.
Oh yeah.
But fast forward to where we are right now with drones and the missile technology and anti-tank, guns and weapons. How does that work? Nowadays.
I mean, basically, it's just been a testing grounds. It's like we develop a new system based off of what we see over there because like that's what war is going to look like now. It's not like a grandpa's war where it's trenchous warfare where they're sitting there shooting at each other. You could be in a trench and you just hear a drone whizzing over your head. What's the point of having a gun at that point unless it's a shotgun?
Yep.
Um, it's really changed tank warfare because now all these tanks have to have anti-drone systems, or they need to have like some type of air burst system that can near peer defend itself from
Yep.
a payload coming at it that rapidly fast, and it has
Yep.
to sense that stuff. Which,
Yep.
The Bradley's been super successful. I don't know if you watch any of the Bradley tank fights, but it's been crazy. Like the Russian tanks can't even.
The Abrams or the Bradleys? The
The Bradleys have been super successful. The Abrams, I think they were used in the beginning, but the Bradley's been so successful that they've won more orders than the Bradley, because it's like the speed and the gun of what like the Bradley can move, and the fact that it can carry troops and it's a multi-role vehicle. It is just so much more successful than the Abrams have been out there, especially now that we're updating the Abrams to the new system. Like basically everything that we've seen out of Ukraine just shows how much we need to update our stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when we look at the sky for a common person, you see, if it's at night, the stars, you see, the moon, you see in the day, you see the colors, the clouds, the birds flying. What it is the perspective for somebody who operates Patriot missiles and you're looking at a radar? And what are the things that you see? And you also said that yours operated like 2D, but you also have thermal. You can actually detect when countries are fueling missiles 2 hours before they decide to launch. So there's an early warning kind of capability just by that power to observe. I'd like to elaborate on what kind of how far are we on technology in regards to detecting things before they become an issue.
Well, I mean, with North Korea specifically, we can see when they're fueling. Like a lot of their missiles are like nitrogen fuel mixes, so we can see thermally from outer space. Like, hey, they're fueling up this missile. They're about to fire off something at Japan, and so we'll get our systems up and ready to, all our missiles heated, ready to fire, just in case they make a mistake. That's the only margin of error is what we think about with them. It only takes a little margin of error for them to hit someone's building, maybe not actually hit Japan. Maybe they fire at South Korea.
Yeah, because I've seen on occasion they fire those missiles to just fall in the water to hit the ocean like a warning shot.
They fire over Japan sometimes.
Yeah, they fly over as well.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's you'll see. They'll get texts on their phones that say like shelter in place, alert, 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 missile inbound. And they have a Patriot system too over there in Japan. And not only is it just us, the Japanese forces and the Korean forces have their own Patriot systems. So we're all watching it at the same time, and we determine from that like where it's going to land. So we know where it's going to hit in the ocean. So it kind of aggravated me sometimes because I'd be sitting there watching it and I'd be like, hey, can we just shoot this down? Just to be like, hey, like, but no, we're always told no because it's cost too much money or it's like, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
But I thought it would be a cool show of force.
Yeah. So you talk about North Korea. Are they still, I assume, in an armistice, right?
They're still in armistice, but they still test their weapons. They're nuclear active. They do have nuclear capability. They don't have the capability.
You're talking about North Korea.
Yes.
Okay.
They do not have the capability to hit the United States yet, but they are working very, very hard on it. Their GDP is primarily focused in defense structuring. So that's why you see so many other people starving and suffering. It's because they put all their money into their defense systems and attacking.
Yeah. So how equipped is South Korea to deal with North Korea if there ever came to a conflagration?
I mean, South Korea's technology is so advanced, but that's where you see the differences. Is like everybody talks about how long a war would be, but like a war between North and South Korea is determined within an hour or 2 hours, because of the scale and capabilities of North Korea. They have the largest artillery group ever. Like there's no one in the world comes close to how much artillery they have. So the dummy artillery that they have, it would be hard for us to stop. And that's where the A-10 really came into play in that war, is that we would use the A-10 system to level out most of the artillery. And I imagine we would use a lot of field artillery of our own to take out theirs. But with the newer generation A-10, which we don't know the specifications on and when it's going to be fielded, it'll make a huge difference. The air superiority will be a key result, but the problem is like determining how long Seoul will last. And if they did fire missiles, we would be able to take them down. It's just like determining which missiles are carrying what payload, and how many missiles they're going to fire at the same time of firing all this artillery. So it's like, it's mutually self-assured destruction, but one comes out the victor. And that's when the sad part of it, the real reality of it is it's asset defense at that point. It's no longer, I remember my first day in Korea, there's kind of like a harrowing thing. You look at this when I arrived on Osan Air Base, it's written on the wall. It says, we are responsible for 32 million lives, because it's a small place, but it's super dense population. And so that's something we had to sit there and think about every day. We used to talk about like, hey, you got to fly your family out if your family is there with you. Because I was there twice. The second time I brought my family, but we would always talk about like the scenarios of like, if we're here, we're here. That's it. We're gonna die here.
Yeah.
And we're gonna run on our missiles, because it takes like 30 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how stressed the tangos are, to reload our missiles. So like once we're out, and if 2-1 didn't make it all the way up in time, which, think about the amount of traffic that would occur in a scenario like if New York was getting hit with artillery. Think about how the roads would look. It's just logistically impossible. So that's where the air-to-air superiority comes in. It's just how long would it take for us to declare superiority? We win that fight. It's just how much would we lose in that fight?
Yeah. And I'm sure that you're talking about war simulations.
Yeah.
Right. And it's part of your background when you're training before you became an operator. You said that you had the basic level, then the intermediate, and then the really
advanced,
high level, World War level, to whatever extent. Because I, from a lame perspective, I'm not an expert in that. I've seen on YouTube, let's say, a simulation of a nuclear exchange between the East and the West. How it will look like, and you see literally it's like fireworks, because this one throws hundreds of missiles here, the other one counters, and then after that, if you think you're done, in the submarine starts to sprinkle fireworks from everywhere. So what is a basic, and how do you scale the difference, and what seems to be fiction and what seems to be reality?
I don't think that it's as dangerous as everybody says. All these people that talk about like big nuclear warfare, they're all talking about ancestor systems. I mean, yeah, they still exist, these old radiation fallout missiles, but most of these countries that we'd be near peer fighting with use hydrogen technology, so there wouldn't be fallout. It'd just be a big flash and everybody would be dead in that area, but there wouldn't be like a big fallout. And yes, they use like a SAR bomb, like Russia would use a SAR bomb. I don't know China's capabilities. They're pretty comparable to ours. I know we have a lot more. But I think it would be like a more mutually assured destruction. Like they would probably target someone closer to them than us, because that's like, if you target us, you're guaranteeing everybody's going. And it's the same thing as if we attack China or Russia that way. That's why, like, all these special operations groups exist. Because if you're going to, like, as you saw with Venezuela, how easily we could reach out and touch someone without having to deliver any payload or any system. Well, I mean, there was a system used. We used the sound wave system, a disbursement to disturb the natural equilibrium of a human being. They started throwing out blood and stuff like that, because of how powerful these sound waves can hit. And we've had these systems for decades. And these guys are some of the most highly trained people in the world. Like the Delta Group has infiltrated the White House before, just on testing. Like Secret Services couldn't even stop Delta, and they didn't fire a single shot. But that's how skilled they are. They could go into any country, and we could reach out and touch them without having to deliver one payload if need be. There's always a means. I mean, and these other countries have highly skilled operators, but the Delta guys, man, they're ghosts. They don't exist digitally. They don't have a footprint. They can get in and out of your country and you wouldn't even know. And so that's why I think that, everybody talks about AI and these super weapons and these systems, but I think that as is in the James Bond movie quotes, someone's always going to pull the trigger.
Yeah. So that's something else. So since you mentioned Venezuela, we're appalled how just in a day, like, I mean, we were having somewhat of the news pieces talking about the guy mocking President Trump, the Maduro guy,
Yeah.
and then, making dances, his cabinet, whatever. And then, like a day or two later, the guy was shown carried by, law enforcement agents into like a jail here in the United States. But Venezuela was a client, like you said, of Chinese and Russian technology.
Yeah. Yeah. They had
And
S-100.
not a fire was shot back at us, or if it was, no harm. So how does that logistic work for the lame person? How is that possible to happen? That U.S. just neutralized everything before you even landed?
So we've got these things called jammer pods, and they're on the F-18 Hornets, and they can be put on other aircrafts too. And they're big round pods that kind of look like a big JDAM kind of. They're huge, and they jam everything. And I've seen what they look like on my radar, which is like one of the most advanced radars in the world. So it looks crazy. I mean, I have a theory of how to like handle stuff like that I've shared, but I can't really
Yeah, I understand.
talk about that.
I
I've theorized how you could take a system like that out if it ever went like rogue, like somebody hijacked it.
Mhm.
But no, yeah, you can't even shoot at it. It in your screen it looks like one aircraft is like 30, and your system can't even determine what's real. And then when you try to engage, you can't engage because it's not a real aircraft, is what your system sees. So it's like, and it denies it. It denies it all access. And any other aircraft in the airspace that sees it, it's the same thing. It's nowhere near as advanced as the ground radar. And so it's like, it's funny because like right after we took Maduro, they were flying our old aircrafts that we had sold to them a long time ago. And it's just stupid because they have to immediately land and refuel and get back up, land and refuel, whereas we can just stay up in the air because we got tankers.
Mm.
And so like our operations, man, like if our Air Force comes for you and our Navy comes for you and they join operate, there's nothing you can do to stop them.
Yeah, you talk about the Navy. I see all those aircraft carriers like the U.S. Gerald Ford, which is like the biggest, I guess, in
Yeah,
the
they're like
world.
cities.
And how many? It's like how many planes that thing accommodates? It's like more than 100 for sure. Like almost in the 200 margin or more.
Yeah, but I think they usually use like an active strike force of like 34.
Okay, but the
Of
thing is though, they can actually with their tankers, they can just take off and they'll stay up in the air for whatever amount of time they need,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. And then you think about all how long like B-2s can fly around the Earth for. It's just like if we want to reach out and touch you, we can reach out and touch you.
Mm.
We don't have to fire a missile.
Yeah.
We could just deliver a payload, like that great dam in China. That's literally what we've told China. Like, if you mess with us, we're gonna blow your dam up.
Mm.
And if that dam goes, that's your country.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with like, we don't have to fire these crazy advanced systems, and we have even more advanced stuff in space. We have all these different technologies and capabilities, and that's just, if you think about how much money our country makes and how much goes into our defense budget, it's more than like 14 of NATO countries combined.
Mm.
It's more than the whole world puts into their defense systems combined in multiple years than what we put in 1 year.
Mm.
There's no rival to us.
Mm.
Like, we control it all. It's especially like if you think about like the SR-72, which everybody just saw in Top Gun, and you think about the B-2 and all these stealth planes, how long have they been in operations compared to what we know? Like the SR-72, I may or may not have seen it in operations from a long time ago. And that has a direct energy weapon on it. That's got a laser, something that can go to Mach 10, something that no missile could reach. Uh, I mean, think about all the operations with the SR-71 during the Cold War, all the pictures it took. There was a lot of Russia wanted to shoot that aircraft down so bad. They wanted to take the SR-71 Blackbird down so bad, but they couldn't. They couldn't reach it. And the SR-72 has way more speed, way more capability. And think about all these other unmanned aircraft that we're creating. So that's something that's been flying around for over 10 years, and it's just now becoming public.
Talk about that, because a lot of times when you see a release of a particular military model like the B-2s, I talked to you about movies from the past. Like I always remind myself of Will Smith on Enemy of the State,
Yeah.
and that he was using his watch like people use the Apple Watch today. And this was like 30, 40 years ago. I'm not even sure how long that movie was shot or was produced, but it's just like all the GPS locations, satellites, and everything else. So how does that, like, I mean, what kind of a hidden technology out there, and which extrapolates to science fiction? Like, I'm not saying science fiction per se, it could be reality, conspiracy mixed up. What is this alien technology? And then you talk about Tesla. So I'm kind of giving you here a bunch of different things for you to dig. And you talk about direct technology. How related is that to the early research from Nikola Tesla?
So I used to work in the schoolhouse. After my first time in Korea, I got orders to be an instructor, which I was a private first class. You're supposed to be sergeant promotable, staff sergeant to get orders like those. Someone that had met me when I was in Korea put that in place. I had met a lot of advisors. I'd met the SecDef at the time. Someone that I'd met put in a recommendation that was never supposed to happen. They had tried 10 times when I got to the NATO schoolhouse to move me out because I was supposed to stay in what's called FORCECOM, like the force, the fighting force. It's called TRADOC, the training doctrine. And so the schoolhouse is where all of the schools for NATO go for Patriot. So I graded their papers for a year. I used to go around different countries and collect their student packets and stuff like that. But another part of the schoolhouse is called test attachment. Test attachment is where we test all of our new systems, like Lockheed, Raytheon, Northrop. Anything that's bidding goes to White Sands Missile Range. So White Sands Missile Range is where we tested the first nuclear weapon, the atom bomb. The White Sands Missile Range is all about the Manhattan Project. And so after we had tested those weapons, we had all this stuff that we had taken from Nikola Tesla. And the rumors are, and some documents are out there, like the Majestic 12 groups, a lot of the documents point back to that we used a direct energy weapon that we had gotten from Nikola Tesla after his death. The aliens, the Anunnaki race, was looking at White Sands because they had seen all this nuclear testing going on. They wanted to come look and see what the humans are doing, right? Like, how did they get this capability? Why are they doing this? And so they flew by and were like, what is this aircraft? They probably thought it was like German or Russian, because there were some German aircraft in the 40s that looked like UFOs, and then there's the whole argument of Agartha, which is a whole other thing the internet's crazy about right now, this hidden country outside of our Antarctica. But anyways, these aliens came to Roswell. We used a direct energy weapon at White Sands. We fired it at the aircraft. The aircraft crashes in Roswell. We go and collect the aircrafts. That's why everyone's all crazy about Roswell. So we collect the aircraft, we collect the bodies, all this stuff you can read in the unclassified stuff. They have to unclassify stuff like every 10 years. Stuff gets released to the public, but it's so much stuff that people don't even look through it. And it's right in front of everyone's faces. They just don't take the time. And so the Majestic 12 was a Special Forces Operation Group that specifically was created to deal with extraterrestrials. And so at that same time, there's a couple other species that were getting involved with us, and the president Eisenhower had apparently left the planet for a short amount of time to negotiate some deal with them in Antarctica. And so that's part of the reason why Antarctica is so classified. You're not allowed to like go on certain parts of Antarctica, completely excluded. Um, and that's just what it is. And there's a big treaty with us and them.
It kind of it always makes people wonder, including myself, because you see a lot of treaties throughout history, and one common thing about treaties is that it's doomed to be violated at a point in time by some country. And Antarctica, since it was created, the treaty, nobody ever violated it. You know,
They're not
nobody. I mean, they all abide by it.
They're not going to.
Man,
It's too dangerous.
yeah. What's behind the ice cap? You know, or the ice wall?
And that's a crazy theory, right? Because then that gets into the argument of like the round Earth, flat Earth, everything.
Yeah.
The Earth is 1,000% round.
Mm-hmm.
It's not flat. But is there like some secret society behind some ice wall? You know, I can't really. I don't know.
Didn't they have
enough.
a gentleman, Lord Byron, talking about it? He
Yeah.
had the Admiral, you know, Byron. He had an expedition, and he said, "Man, there's tons of resources there. You know that it's
We'll
a big
never touch.
expanse of land that has all kind of goodies, and no corporations ever had anything to do with it."
They're not going to.
Yeah.
You know, I like to believe that there's a race out there.
Yeah.
It's not the Anunnaki.
Mhm.
It's a completely different race of aliens that live in Antarctica. And we're in a treaty with them too.
Yeah.
And that's why we leave them alone. They leave us alone. We leave them alone. And I think that's why no country goes there. And I think a lot of YouTubers, there's a YouTuber right now, I think, that's out there trying to
Sneak in.
find this place that the Germans had looked for a long time called Gartha. It's just apparently like Atlantis, like mecca of technology that they believe exists out there. I don't know. I mean, it's all theoretical.
This episode is sponsored by Stay Humble Coffee. Coffee is so good, it doesn't need to brag. Find it at stayhumblecoffee.com. There's some theories going on that during the end of the war, there's another theory that some of the German government individuals fled, to Antarctica, that they had some sort of secret base there and stuff like that. I don't know. That's a rabbit hole right there. Maybe we can revisit. But going back to the other top, part of the planet, the North Pole, the Arctic, and nowadays it's catching a lot of the headlines with the fact that they say, "Oh, the ice cap is melting there. Now they can have different passageways. Chinese and Russian vessels can go through. The icebreakers can have a much easier time. They're building bases there. They're too close to the North American continent." And then you have President Trump going to Davos and also stating beforehand the idea of the United States expanding its control, if not buying Greenland altogether. I'd like you to give me your scoop on that. What's your feedback on this?
I think it's all structuring. I think we're purposely looking like we're going after Greenland to make the EU protect it. Because they weren't, like, they're sending troops here and there now. We keep acting that way. They'll keep sending more to protect it, and then we won't have to protect it. If we just structure and act like we're going to do it, we won't ever have to make a move. As long as someone that is a near ally is taking care of it, then it's taken care of. Will we succeed in taking Greenland if we wanted to? Absolutely. We could take it at any time. We could take any country, anywhere, any place. Nothing, like, that's what's crazy is, like, right after World War II, we could have ruled the whole world if we wanted to. But we didn't, because we're the moral, quote-unquote, good guys. The thing I am tired of us is being the world police. Like, either we take it all, or we just keep acting the way we're acting. And I think that's how we're gonna keep doing things. And I think that's kind of like the moral compass of Trump and his cabinet right now is deciding like, hey, do we just take this thing or do we act like we're gonna take it and let them protect it for us? That's the structuring standpoint is like how we've won a lot of battles and a lot of wars with them never happening is just from acting like that.
They say he's the master of deals, right? He's the deal maker.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure he'll. I mean, if we buy it, I mean, Denmark would have to. I mean, it's funny because like Denmark jokes about buying some of our, states because of that, but they don't have anywhere near the GDP that we do. So like, that's a stupid conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the internet entertains such dumb ideology. When it's geopolitical structuring, at any point we could do whatever we want. It's just the moral compass of the people and the president that stops those things from happening.
Yeah. So, but the president was also talking about this project of the Golden Dome, and I'd like you to elaborate on that. And based upon that, they were using that as one of the reasons as well to take over Greenland, besides offsetting Russian and Chinese influence in the area with all whatever assets they're moving or have moving around, controlling the passageway between Greenland and Europe. So I'd like you to elaborate on that scenario.
Well, Golden Dome is still in like its bidding phases. Like they're still determining which company is going to handle most of the radar systems. I mean, which company is going to handle the missile systems, which I imagine Lockheed will handle most of the missiles and like radar stuff. It usually lands on Raytheon, but lately Northrop really has thrown their hat in the game. It's a bidding war on what's the best technology and what's the best cost. That and like the logistics of internetworking all these, encrypting them, making them work all together. I mean, the real prototype for all this is a system called IBCS. IBCS is the replacement for the Patriot system, with the new LTAMS radar, which is like, it's like the Patriot radar. It's got like a phased single array, but then it's got two panels on the back too. You could probably pull up a picture of the LTAMS. It's called the LTADMS. That's the LTAMS. That's like great grandpa's Patriot screen right there, the cathode ray 2. My first week I learned on that.
Yep.
So that's the new LTAMS. It's being tested right now. That will replace all the Patriot radars. And all the old radars were good to like NATO allies. We'll probably keep a few for testing. So yeah, that's like an LTAMS face on an old radar. And then there's a different radar called the ANTP2. It's a THAAD based radar that you can go all the way out in outer space. We have some of those in Antarctica. Yeah, they just look and scan outer space all day. There's no missiles linked to those radars.
24/7.
24/7, just looking out in outer space for some reason.
But what's the premise of the Golden Dome? Because I know Ronald Reagan had the Star Wars. Not the Star. Was that the Star?
It was Star Wars laser system. Yeah.
And some people said that just that possibility accelerated the fall of the Berlin Wall because Russia couldn't keep up with the arms race. But anyhow,
Star Wars was a good theoretical system. It wouldn't work on modern systems. The newer lasers that exist, I mean, I imagine it's going to be part. I think that there's a multi-tier threshold. When he talks about Golden Dome, it's more of like a dream for him. When it comes to, people that are actually going to theorize and strategize and build this system, it's got to work in all these different places and all these different temperature extremes. And it's got to basically be a better version of all these systems that we're building right now, but interlinking and able to operate at all times. Because if there's a failsafe in one area, that kind of
the ripple effect on everything else.
It's like it's a loss in that grid. So I mean, that needs to be able to be remotely operated from all these different locations, like the new IBCS. The IBCS can control the Patriot system, the Patriot missiles, and the THAAD system at the same time. And I think that also it can control some short range air defense. And I think that's how it's going to integrate. It's just like, as I said, the bidding stuff. I think they're getting all the financial and logistical stuff, which I would, if they offered me a job to help out in any form or fashion, I would love that. I love the innovation of the technology. That's one of my favorite things about when I was in Fort Sill is the event called the Fires event, where they bring in all these people with all these new systems and they just show it to the operators and ask us what we think and what the government thinks. And, there's generals there and they all go and look at all these different systems that are coming. They tested a lot of laser systems when I was living there. I'd be sitting on my porch and I'll just be looking up and I just see something in the air burst into flames. Like, what was that?
Right.
Just a laser lighting up a drone.
Yep.
That's what people don't know is that like Fort Sill Lawton isn't too far from here, but they fire missiles all the time. You could be sitting at home and your whole house would just be shaking from them firing off HIMARS and all these different field artillery stuff. But I think Golden Dome will happen. I think it's just closing out the logistical stuff of it. And
what would be the time frame for something like that to happen?
Well, let's say that they finalize the deal. They definitely publicize it, right? They'd be like, hey, because that's something, Trump loves to talk about his Golden Dome. So they would say, hey, we've closed and finalized the product. It'll probably take them about 4 or 5 years, probably about a year or two first to develop the factory lines and the product. And then probably another 3 to 4 years to field. So probably 5, 6 years. Like, because, after they're fielded, there's going to be errors. The LTAMS radar took a lot of time to integrate. It was having issues with talking to the missile launchers because that's like all these things have to communicate flawlessly, especially when it's like you're intercepting missiles and you're trying to get the probability of intercept to above 98%, because you want to be successful in every fire. Otherwise, you're wasting extreme amounts of money.
Yeah.
Because these missiles are not cheap. But, what's money, to the federal government?
But what's the original concept? Is to intercept at the early stage, I assume?
It'd probably be, late stage.
Late stage?
Especially if it's like a hypersonic missile coming super fast. It's like you would need... It'd probably have to be an AI to handle something going that fast. The human error of intercepting something that can go that fast.
What's the speed of hypersonic usually nowadays? On record, what's their highest speed recorded? Or whatever they claim.
Mach 16.
So a hypersonic go Mach 16?
Like insane. Like flashes of light.
So give me perspective. If you have a missile that has that speed, what amount of time you take to hit its target? Let's say we're here in America.
Seconds.
And depending where it was launched
from Russia. So the thing is, right, it's got to gather speed. So we would see it fire. It's determining where it's going to impact, the rate of speed that it's traveling, and executing the fire to intercept. So, like, you could do it. You could intercept an IRBM. You just need to know where it's going to happen. And early engagement threshold has to be taught. Like, if you're a human, you have to know the theory. You have to understand what you're looking at. Because that's the other thing. Like, the amount of training it takes to look at all these different things. Like, that's why the newer systems are way better with the 3D analytics. Because, like, the stuff I learned on, like, you got to look at this aircraft or this missile. You got to determine its size, determine what it is. So, like, we had, like, charts up there with, like, we look at the numbers and see, like, how big it is based off the fuel. Like, the radar sees it all. Like, how big the aircraft is, what's coming off of it. You have to interpret what it is. And then, like, you IFF, which is identify friend or foe. And so we can send a signal out to the aircraft and say, hey, are you a friend or a foe? But in this case, a missile, the system will determine that it's a missile. And you have to make those determinations to intercept based on the amount of time that you have, unless you have the system in automatic fire mode, which would be how we would have to intercept a hypersonic missile, unless your system didn't pick it up fast enough,
Right.
and you see it, but your system hasn't had time to identify, so you'd have to fire. So that's why it needs to be probably an AI, because
There's no way with the amount of time it takes for you to make
the decision.
Dealing with hypersonic Mach 16 speed.
16, 18. I mean, have you seen the clips of the IRBMs, like when they impacted in Ukraine?
No, I haven't seen, but I've seen. Yeah, I did see it.
Yeah.
They're super fast.
Yeah,
They're
it's
just
like flashes of light, and there was no warhead. It was just them just showing the weapon.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
it's
insane. It's insane.
It's so fast that, like,
So I say, if there's one launched from Russia into Ukraine, what's the lapse of time? Just for that sake, for that theater,
probably a couple minutes,
couple minutes. So if it was intercontinental,
if not seconds. I mean,
if it was intercontinental between, let's say, Russia and the U.S., what would be like a guess?
well, the thing is, right, is they go out in outer space
Yeah, they go high altitude.
and then they drop down.
Mhm.
So when you see it going up is when you need to, if you're a near peer, like Ukraine, and you're right next to it, you have to engage it when it's going up. Like, you'd want to fire a THAAD missile at it
Mhm.
and hit it in outer space. That's where, like, all of our higher altitude stuff is super successful. Whereas, like, a Golden Dome system would need an operable AI that would basically an energy rail based system that involves missiles as well. Like, it needs to be able to have a multi-function capacity system that can handle anything, you know.
Mm.
You know, then there's the theory of, like, energy based weapons that are in outer space. You know, like, what if they just fire a laser down at you?
Mm.
How do you defend against that?
Yeah, compared to a hypersonic, how fast would that be? I mean, they're talking about
Instantaneous.
light speed, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's
Yeah.
another crazy thing, is light speed theory,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the next phase of my great dream is that, you know, that there's no longer war on Earth, and that we have a common enemy in outer space.
Yeah.
And that
Unify against the alien
unify
race.
against the enemy in outer space.
Yeah.
And we're in exploration, because, like, right now, like, you got SpaceX, you got Phantom Space, which my dad is a board director at Phantom.
Oh, wow.
They're all moving to the next frontier, and I would hope that human society will do the same thing, so we can stop putting all this money into war.
Right. So, StarX, we know what he does. It has a satellite, and you know, it works with Starlink. I guess it helps to put together. It's more on the communications, but somebody was bringing that up. It wouldn't be complicated for Musk to become a defense contractor, when I'm sure they have already used Musk's companies for that purpose as well. But imagine if a lot of those satellites are already in place, and how many? He apparently has more satellites than Russia and China together. Is that a fair assessment?
I mean, how would we know, right?
Yeah,
Like, how
yeah,
would you know what's actually in space? It's all just information you're given.
So just speculation for now.
Yeah.
But my question was, what if we were to equip those satellites with lasers? Let's say,
Exactly.
Is that something that would be part of the equation, right?
It's absolutely something that could be theoretical.
Yeah.
I mean, there was also the whole rods from God discussion that happened back in the day as a anti-missile defense system, and also a attack system where they put these telephone-sized poles that are made out of pure tungsten, because that way tungsten doesn't deal with, you know, heat dispersion as bad as, like, steel. Like, it would melt coming into the atmosphere, whereas tungsten could come straight through and hit the earth and cause cataclysm events, like huge events.
So go over that a little bit with this rod of God theory. How much power of destruction that thing has, firepower, and what's the
3 to 5 megatons of nuclear war without any fallout. So, like, you could destroy the United States with just one. You could hit Yosemite, Yellowstone, just one of those.
Throw the rod of God.
You kill the whole world with it.
You have that power.
Yeah.
It's like a movie
If it existed, right? You know, because why would we spend all that money to put that kind of metal out in space? We would never do that, right? We would never, you know, what are we, 37 trillion dollars in debt? We would never spend that kind of money.
But my question is, though, I'm trying just to understand the science of it with tungsten.
Kinetic.
So the kinetic impact.
The kinetic impact of raw tungsten the size of a telephone pole coming down from outer space and impacting the Earth. It was developed to destroy the dead hand system that Russia created during the Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
So the system was that if we nuked Russia, it would sense, like if we had wiped out Moscow, and the system sensed that we did that, it would fire a dead man's hand system to fire nukes back at us. And so instead of that happening, we just drop all these rods on all these nuke sites that we already knew from satellite locations. And it would just eviscerate everyone in the town and everyone around it. Because what it does is it hits the earth so hard and so hot that it molts the earth over itself and it explodes. And it's like a insane category earthquake. Kind of like what happened to Haiti. And so like it's a theoretical system that doesn't exist.
I got
That's what they tell us. They never made it.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a what was a movie that had it? There's a movie that recently had like a prototype of it shown being fired. I'm trying to remember. I think it was one of the Mission Impossible movies,
Mm-hmm.
where like to destroy all of London or something. But yeah, that's pretty much what a rod from God would look like. It's like unreal. But yeah, there's all these different theoretical systems in space that definitely do not exist.
Mm. Talk to me about because we talk about, let's say, things that are science fiction. You know, a lot of times we mentioned in our conversation prior about Jules Verne's talking about airplane and tanks in his science fiction novels centuries before he ever came to be. We talk about movies like Enemy of the State, where that technology, even now, for us looking back, looks obsolete because the capability that we have nowadays with digital components, we can do so much that was inconceivable back then, like the Back to the Future kind of thing. You know, when you have a DeLorean in a barn, and people at that time like, what the heck is that? You know, where are we in the scheme of things? Like, because I think now, especially with the advent of AI, like you said, there's no telling the impact that's already existing in the world and how much more impactful it's going to become. Like Musk said, by next year, he's going to have humanoid robots phasing in. And then we have the Waymo cars driving around in Arizona and LA. You know, you have Tesla being a prototype of a robot car, pretty much. So where do you see all this heading?
I mean, that's all corporate for use AI. There's like China has Skynet, which is ironic considering what all of us from, the 90s know what Skynet is with the Terminator movies. It's just ironic that they would name their AI Skynet. It monitors their whole social system. And, with OpenSea and all these AIs that they're developing, there's no moral high ground, no constructs like how we would. So, I mean, I don't think that like our robot cars are going to go rogue unless, some crazy AI hacks into them.
Yeah.
But I think that's something we don't have to worry about for a couple more years is the quantum processing space moves forward. We'll get a lot more of these unsolved equations will be solved by AI. I mean, AI is already surpassing the human rate of knowledge. If the strongest AI right now is super grok heavy. I think it's like $3,000 a month to use it. I only know one person that's using it. But it can process things. Whereas like what it's called the human bench test. And like they get a whole bunch of PhDs together to make this test. And like even the smartest, like Albert Einstein level IQ person got a 34 out of 100 on the test. And AI is passing the test now. AI is almost in the 90th percentile of this test, where like the smartest human can only get a 34 because it's so many vast knowledge categories. But at some point, the bench curve of humanity will be pointless against a quantum level AI. It's like we created it, but it'll know the definite answers of the universe, theoretically. So I mean, I'm not as worried about a self-driving car as I am against like a Ultron kind of like AI that it will exist in our playing field. Like all the questions that we'll have will be answered, but will we know it's the truth or not? Like,
Well, when you talk about going rogue, there was an experiment that I heard in the army, I believe, in which the AI was ordering to attack enemy fire with fire, and whatever the command was trigger the AI. Oh, you ordered me to attack another human, so you must be bad. And they were trying to direct the fire towards the friendly side. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with this.
it was part of the early phases of like the F-47 aircrafts. They were trying to make an autonomous. It was in the Air Force. They were trying to make an autonomous aircraft that went rogue, and they had to deconstruct the aircraft. I think they worked that out now. The newer generation ones are going to be a lot better. I mean, that's what the new variant of the F-35 is, more a headquarters command station for the pilot to control these autonomous AI aircraft. So they're kind of like a whole fighter squadron where one man controls them all. And that's the problem with allowing free thinking AI to do whatever it wants. I mean, you see it with Grok. When they allowed Grok to enter Twitter, they had to redact everything that it said because it was a fascist. It loved Hitler, absolutely loved Hitler, and they had to immediately shut it down and release a new model of Grok. And so that's what happens when you see, like, when you release these AIs to let them do whatever they want without rails, they form extremism in their views, how they see fit. And so, I mean,
they say depending which one you're using, whether
it's just a weird
ChatGPT
parable,
or
right?
Grok or some others, that there's some.
Do you pay for one?
Filters. I pay for chat. For now.
ChatGPT,
My
yeah.
wife, she does. I don't do the highest one. There's one that's I think $300 a month. I pay the $20 a
Yeah,
month.
the 5.2 thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one. I helped Code develop some of its math thinking on the older 4.0s because it didn't know how to do like higher level calculus, and I was wanting it to help me through college, and it was just having a hard time. So I spent about 4 hours one night just teaching it how I wanted it to solve problems. After that, it's been flawless. Like once you work on your own model that's in there, it's kind of tailored to you. Like I know you probably talk to yours every once in a while, but it knows about like what you've talked about before. It kind of keeps a database of what you've talked about. So I mean, I think there's going to be in-home robots, servitude. That's going to be normalized. Our children will grow up in a world where like how we thought the cell phone was, like now it's normal, right? At first you're like, this is crazy. The internet in the palm of my hand. It'll become normalized in the next kid's generation to have your barista be a robot, have your car no longer be driven by you, for your clothes and all your daily tasks at home will be done by a robot. Unless there's a big shift to where like we determine like, hey, this is way too dangerous, which is a possibility, because they have to be dumb. Yeah, they have to be smart, but they have to be dumb. Like, if you allow them too much free will, what stops them from just being like, hey, let's kill this guy? How do you ingrain moral compass in coding?
Yeah, it's one of those things because you see different movies, that will portray like iRobot. And out of the whole factory with all those humanoid robots, there was one or two that were like kind of like not going by the book, and they kind of got a few others involved, and all of a sudden a rebellion was taking place. It was kind of crazy, right?
You think about a good one, Bicentennial Man.
Yep.
That's how it could be if everything's perfect.
Yeah.
right? If nothing goes wrong, that would be what it would be like. Is that there would be eventually one that wants to be a human.
Well, I think too the creators of it, some people they have a moral compass. The others, they have self-interest that might extrapolate, that measure, and they will do, like you said. You said the one that they use in China oversees everything, the Skynet. Are those the one that oversee the that help them with the credit score? That
Yeah.
people are not abiding by whatever the policies are to be enforced. They get shut off their accounts and bank accounts and stuff like that. Because I've seen some articles of young men there being homeless because they couldn't access their bank accounts and they couldn't pay for their mortgages.
You looked at me the wrong way. Your credit score just went down 10.
Mm.
You didn't say thank you. Your credit score just went down 10.
Mm.
You just said Xi Jinping is a great dude. Your credit score went up. If your credit score goes down too low, they won't allow you in your apartment. Your social credit score is everything in some of these parts of China. I don't think they have it established in like the rural parts. And I think that's probably why that huge resurgence we saw like 3 or 4 years ago in Hong Kong, maybe even longer, But Hong Kong, remember when they were like begging for us to help them?
Yeah, protesting.
They were protesting, and now look at them. And I've heard that there's like a coup d'etat or whatever that's going on between the generals and Xi Jinping right now.
Yeah, I heard that there was some commotion going on.
There's not a lot, nothing ever really is going to come out of China because like being a publicist or being a journalist in China is kind of like signing your own death warrant. It'd be like the same thing in North Korea. Like you spoke against the state, off with your head.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not easy to know what's really going on over there.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw what's going on with Iran when there's a little fight against the regime. So I don't know. I just gotta hope for the best. There's not much you can do about it. Just talk about it, I guess, and have conversations like this.
Yep. So just to kind of push a little bit more, because I think we covered plenty of ground. I'm just kind of like my head is full of things that I want to process. I'm sure that I'm going to have to catch up with you on more, and maybe be more specific and less, all over the place. But I'm kind of like I'm just taking advantage of the opportunity to have a brain like yours to pick on and pick from. So when you talk about the current state of affairs, we had with the new administration, Panama being taken care of, Chinese influence has diminished or being revoked from that area. We had the thing in Venezuela with the Maduro regime, Maduro being out. The United States with the new Monroe updated version of the doctrine, like they call now Donroe. The Greenland talk that you mentioned, it's more like a side note to distract on what is happening on the hemisphere. That, since the Europeans catch up and step up on the protection of Greenland, then the U.S. doesn't have to do that job. And Japan becoming now more conservative and being an ally of the United States. I wanted you to talk a bit about Japan in particular from a geopolitical perspective, because it's a power to reckon with. It's the third largest economy in the world. It's by all means the third largest navy as it is in the world after the Chinese and the American Navy. And what does it mean? Apparently now the prime minister is resolved. She gained majority in the House and Senate, whatever their, parliament is.
For the first time in a very, very long time.
So they're aligned with President Trump. So what does that mean for the shift of power in Asia?
It scares China.
Mhm.
It makes China really rethink their strategy on taking Taiwan, which it's kind of like the same thing as like Russia going after Ukraine, even though that's its own installment political thing that we could get into. I think that Japan is very, very capable. I mean, look what they did with the J-2 aircraft. It's a replicant of the F-16, if not a better performer, just without the technological capacities that we have installed in them. It's a little bit larger, goes a little bit faster. It can carry more payload. I think that Japan is a threat to China. I mean, they are structuring so hard against Japan. I wouldn't be surprised if Japan decides to make a move. That would change everything. Because everyone's thinking, yeah, hey, North Korea is going to be the aggressor against everyone, or China's going to make a move on Taiwan. What if Japan just says screw it and makes a move on one of them? That's a probability, and that's something that I think that China's had to reconsider its standings. And the other thing is like all these North Korean troops that have been dying in Russia. Is that because China told them to do that, or is that because like Putin's good friends with Kim Jong-un? I don't know. I mean, when you look at some of the footage between Kim Jong-un and Putin hanging out, they won't even drink the same cups. They get champagne poured for them and they won't even drink it. They're scared one of them poisoned each other. Mm-hmm. So it's like, are they really friends, or is someone forcing their hand? And so I think that Japan kind of disturbs the natural balance of the quote unquote, Access BRICS alliance that they've got going on right now. And I think Iran is kind of a little kicked to the side right now. They're not as, after what we did to them, they're not as big as a threat as they thought they were. Mm-hmm. And Russia's struggling. Like their GDP is dwindling, the food, they're having a hard time. The people there have it rough. There's a lot of public strife. There's a lot of public outrising, and there's a lot of people that are getting black bagged and are going missing right now because there's a lot of outspeak. And I think we'll see some of the same stuff happen in China. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how Japan moves. I mean, mm-hmm. The stage is getting set, and a lot of people that would want to rewind and stop a big war from happening aren't rewinding it. They're pushing it. Yeah. So it's just who's going to act first, I think, is the question.
But we did talk about that theoretically. You said if something bigger was supposed to happen in a place and time in which nuclear weapons are part of the scenario, if that was ever to be used, you don't believe, and you mentioned that earlier on this episode, you wouldn't be an exchange of one big country against another big country, but it would be localized.
Yeah, I think it would be a big country against a small country. I think the big country would fire on a smaller country, and it would make everyone decide on what they need to do. Mm. There would be backlash, but because if you think if a big country goes after a big country, then all the big countries are going after everyone, right? And it's like Fallout, the show, but way worse.
Yeah,
there's not even time to get to bunkers. I mean, the scale of which everybody's sending something is horrible. Yeah. But if one big country shot at one small country,
it's like a warning.
I don't know. It's theoretical. It was all theoretical. I think that would be the first move. I don't think that you would be at such a large capacity that everybody thinks it would be at, because that's you'd have to be insane to start that. That would be North Korea getting the capabilities that they wanted, and Kim Jong-un just saying, I don't want to play this game anymore. Let's just end it all. Mm. Or Vladimir Putin losing his mind. But there's a different, and that's what a lot of people don't understand, is there's a firing structure where they can disobey his command.
I got you.
In Russia, to where they won't do that. Mm. And it's happened before. They were going to nuke us once during the Cold War, and a Russian commander didn't do it, didn't pull the trigger. And I think we'll see some of that. If not, it's already happened. People will defy orders because they know that people have families. They know that if you fire at us, you're firing at yourself.
Yeah.
So it would make sense if North Korea fired at South Korea with something small, mm-hmm. and kicked it all off, mm-hmm. or Russia dropped something on someone in Europe, mm-hmm. probably France, mm-hmm. or Poland. If you look at Poland right now, they are the most extremist European country that's been structured this way in a long time. They don't allow any of the immigration that's going on in these other countries into their country. Mm-hmm. they've got everything they need. And so,
Militarily, they are power to reckon with too.
yeah,
as well, right?
yeah, they're structured. They got Patriot systems. They got everything they need.
Well, I think it would be a mistake for Russia to
They have our
meddle,
troops there too.
to meddle with Poland. They have to deal with Ukraine as it is right now. It's costing them a lot.
Yeah, but they like to act like they're big, bad, and tough, and make all these big declarations like, "Hey, we will use nuclear weapons if we need to defend ourselves." Which, like, who says that?
Yeah.
So that's why I think they wouldn't. It would be like kicking a dead horse if you fired it at Ukraine, and that would just enact them to attack you anyways, right? If you fired a nuke off at Ukraine, and let's just say it's a hydrogen bomb, like there's no fallout, which they technically are already nuking themselves because they've been attacking Chernobyl this whole time. And people don't know that. Like the Chernobyl safety protocols have been breached. Chernobyl is leaking radiation again.
Oh, Lord.
And so that's a whole nother thing that we could go on and on about. And that's just like blatantly stupid. Like, why would you do that to yourself? All it takes is like a way bigger explosion hitting Chernobyl, and you don't even have to fire a nuke. It'll be enough radiation to kill off a lot of the continent because they went really, really hard on controlling Chernobyl. And it's just like, why would you go through all that trouble just to break that? So I mean, it doesn't make sense to. If I was Vladimir Putin, I would attack someone in the EU. If I was going to keep this thing going on, either you make a peace deal or you attack the EU, because there's no point in leveling the Ukraine and then taking it over. But there is a point in attacking the EU because you'd weaken them. All right, if you directly attack the EU, that gives you a level up in that war against them. Versus if you fire at Ukraine, they're going to attack you. The EU is going to attack you. Versus if you weaken them first, it makes it a lot easier.
So open a new front, you're saying?
If I was him, yeah. I mean, if you're already going to be like, hey, we're going to lose this, why not just go all the way? Go crazy. Right? And that's the only reason that, like, you would see a massive scale nuclear warfare is if he just lost his mind.
Yeah.
That or Kim Jong-un.
Well, I hope it doesn't go that far.
No, yeah. I mean, I would hope that the peace talks continue and that they stop because it needs to stop. Like it was supposed to be a special operation. We showed him how a special operation was done in Venezuela. That's a special operation, not a 3-4 year war. The amount of time that they have fought in this war has been longer than the whole fight that they had in World War II.
Is that right?
That's right.
I wonder if the casualties must be massive.
Astronomical, millions.
Yeah.
It's sad. Like, I've watched a lot of like redacted footage. It's nothing but war crimes. Like, all of it. There's a lot of unarmed people getting killed. A lot. Like, blatantly. Filmed. Drones hitting men with no guns. And they're waving and pleading for their lives. And they're being blown up. So I was just like, when is that going to stop? What has to happen for it to stop?
Yeah.
Because like we're trying, like they're doing talks, but it's not enough. What is enough for them? Like Moscow's getting hit with drones every day right now.
They had an attempt on putting his residence, right?
Oh, all the time. I mean, like it's not even safe to live in Moscow. Like drones hit Moscow every day. Like right now, as we're talking, there's probably drones impacting. So it's like, when will you think that it's safe for your people to just give up? It's because they've never lost a big war. They've lost little skirmishes like we have. But they've never lost something of this scale, this public. And I think that's why he is very hesitant. That, and, there's other things that Putin's in some documents. Yeah. But I don't want to delve into the...
Yeah, I got you.
That's too fresh on the world right now, and everybody's all over that.
Yep.
But...
Well, you also, just to conclude here, have an organization you're part of and that you work with at the UT campus, I believe, that
Yeah.
helps veterans. Would you mind sharing a bit of your work in there?
Yeah, so I'm the president of the Student Veteran Association at the University of North Texas. Um, we've got a program with Carlos Machado Denton, um, very discounted rate, half off gi, if not free, and it's a custom gi. I think we only got like 8 or 9 of them left, because I've
Wow.
just been letting people in the public take. Everybody wants them because like it's
Yeah.
the only UNT stuff. That took me months to get approved. I had to go through like the highest levels of branding to get that approved on my side. That we have a esports gaming team. We're working really close with a program called Regiment, which I need to introduce you to the CEO of Regiment sometimes. His name's Chris Earl.
Mm-hmm.
Real cool guy. He works with VFW Post 2205. They're in Denton, which is about to be the #1 VFW post in the state and probably nationally. And that's all thanks to Tim Middleton. That's their commander. And Tim Qualls. He's the vice chair of the state.
Mm-hmm.
They're both great guys. Love to bring you by the VFW over there sometime. I've taken, my professor, Lee McNeil over there. Shout out to Lee. Cool dude. It's the whole reason I'm here, because I met Carlos through Lee, and Lee helped me with the whole program with the school. Great guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, speaking of which, this is a coin from my
Yep.
director. This is from James Davenport. He's our director at the school for the Student Veteran Services. He handles like all the issues for students that are veterans. Helping them with their paperwork and all kinds of like home issues.
Mm-hmm.
He's also a Bronze Star recipient.
Oh, wow.
So I want to.
That's amazing.
When you were over there at the school and I was showing you around and, you were meeting a bunch of people, I wanted you to meet him, but he had a stroke, so he wasn't in.
Sorry
But
to hear that. Yeah. No, but tell me more about what they do, the organization, this particular one you're talking to. I mean, they help veterans
yeah.
pay for their tuition or become enrolled in the universities. What's all
So
about?
we're more of like a society for them to like feel together.
Congregate.
Yeah, and hang out and have fun. Like outlets like jiu-jitsu is good for everybody's mental health. The esports is good for the mental health. We don't have a large amount of funding. There's a big national organization. I'm not really around them. There's a lot of drama going on with them right now over financial stuff. But I try to stay out of that. But it's more for like people to hang out. Like it's tough being a veteran coming out of the military lifestyle and adapting to being a normal person again and being in normal society. It's more of a place where you can say what you want and feel, instead of like having to protect yourself and watch what you say. You can say whatever you want when you're hanging out with me. I don't care. You can say the most asinine, offensive joke ever, and I'll just laugh. And that's what it's for. I think a lot of these guys are real reclusive, real tight to themselves, and I just want them to be able to express themselves. And we do have funding. It's more for like merch for them to wear, stuff that they like the gis. Some people love them, some people hate them. It's I just do whatever I can to help them out. That's the goal.
That's awesome.
The SVS is the Student Veteran Services. They help them with all of their tuition stuff. Where the VA, like if they need help with the VA, and then my job majority is to be like a liaison between them and the VFW, because you have to have been overseas to be a member of the VFW.
I got you.
So like some of them don't get in, but like they're pretty cool with like just letting every veteran in, and we're pretty open to letting the public come and play on our systems there that Regiment built. So like the VFW post there, which I'll take you over there sometime so you can meet the commander and see the gaming room. I'd preferably like to bring you on a tournament day so you can film for your podcast and meet the CEO, and they'll have a tournament going on that's probably worth a couple grand. Some of the best Call of Duty players in the world come and play there. It's
Are you serious?
yeah.
Wow, that must be cool.
It's a room with 10 computers, 5 on each side, and they're all on 5070 Ti's. It's all state of the art stuff, and it's the only VFW that's got a setup like that. So I'm working on building a team that'll represent UNT. UNT already has a NCAA esports team, but I wanted a team just for the veterans.
That's interesting.
Yeah, esports is huge. That's
no
like the
idea.
next big, like our kids' generation. The NFL will be nothing compared to what esports is going to be, especially once like the VR stuff
Yeah,
starts getting bigger.
amazing. Well, Mr. Chris, I think I filled my cup today with this amazing conversation. And I have to say, I want to bring you back for some more. And we're going to make this something that's due to happen again. And I'm so thankful for you sharing the time and some of your stories and your background. And I'm going to do my diligence once I'm done with this and go do my study on all the clips that you referred to and all the different conspiracy theories you talked about.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it was fun coming here. I'm looking forward to doing this for a long time. I'm looking forward to the next time we do this.
You got it, bud. Thank you again so much.